Oh, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the U.S. and around the world. Welcome to Baseball Outside the Box, Copabe Play Ball, and ESPN Honolulu. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are ready to rock and roll, and thank you for having us in over 100 countries. We are now live streaming on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Any questions, especially on Facebook, let us know. Just put them in the comments section, and we will get those questions in. Again, everybody, thank you. Baseball Outside the Box. Today, we have a special show for you. First of all, we're talking about pressure, two types of pressures. And what's interesting about all this is not only a major league umpire for all these years, and I'm going to tell you who it is in a minute. Talk about being, you watch the games, how much pressure an umpire has. And then in 2014, he also came out. I want to talk to him about all this, because if you could handle those two pressures, you could handle anything in the world. So let me tell you, I'm not going to go over everything, but 32 seasons, 91 postseason games, 3 World Series, 3 All-Star games, 12 divisions series, 6 league championships, major league umpire, and also an author. The Umpire is out, calling the game and living my true self. Love it. The Memoir of 37 years in pro baseball and a journey, coming out in 2014. Hey, let's not waste any time. Let's welcome former major league umpire who just threw out the first pitch at the Padres game. He's thrown out many in the big leagues. He's got more to come. Dale Scott. What's up, Dale? How you doing?
I'm doing great. That's a long intro, for crying out loud.
Yeah, well, hey, it's a long bio and a long history. It's unbelievable.
Who did all that stuff anyway? I mean,
and I should have mentioned also radio personality, right?
Yeah, I worked radio about 5.5 years.
Well, let me tell you, you've got both the voice and everything for radio, television. That's got to be, hopefully that's your next gig, because you know what, I just thought about this, but I didn't think about, what we need. I see it sometimes in Major League Baseball. We need an umpire in the booth, because sometimes, rules, interpretations,
right.
all that, in all fairness to the announcers, they got a pretty decent idea, but when you got an umpire there, you can kind of get both sides, especially sometimes explaining to the fans that, strike zone, electronic strike zone, which I kind of think is unfair to the major league umpire.
I don't kind of think it is. I know it is. But actually the year after, or the year I retired, 2018, I did get a phone call from Fox, from a producer at Fox, asking if I was curious, or they were curious if I was interested in doing some kind of thing like that. But to be honest with you, it involved, basically being in every weekend from the beginning of the season, flying to LA and being there to, whatever games are covering that Saturday, and then flying back home. So every weekend would be tied up. Plus the whole month of October would be living in LA. To be honest with you, I just didn't really want to do that. So, but I was flattered that they approached me about it. I thought maybe, but it just wasn't something I was interested in doing.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that there'll be other major league umpires that are retired, that maybe they'll jump on that, because I think it's really good for the game. But
I do know Brian Gorman is doing it for the Apple TV broadcast that they do on Friday nights now. They do
nice.
have Brian set up for doing that.
Nice, like it. Listen, before we get into you and everything, I want the audience to know a little bit about you. So I'm going to give you some quick questions, and then
all right,
and then we'll get started. I mean, real simple ones. Basically, where were you born?
I was born in Eugene, Oregon.
And high school?
Yeah, Eugene, Sheldon High School in Eugene.
What was your favorite sports at the time?
Well, I was always a baseball fan. I mean, I grew up a baseball fan and football. And then at Sheldon, I played, I was a 3-year letterman in tennis. That sounds impressive, but I didn't win a match my junior year. And my senior year, I lost in the playoffs, first set, or 6-love in my first match. So I wasn't necessarily really good, but I did letter. So there you go.
Well, yeah, I also heard you on that first pitch you threw in Dodger Stadium. That was incredible. You even mentioned, you said that's why you went to umpire, right? Just like me, I went into coaching because I couldn't play that good anyways.
Right. I couldn't hit, throw, field, or run. But besides that, I was right.
You were ready. I always said what stopped me was talent, right? That stopped me from making it to the big leagues.
Exactly.
How about in school? What'd you like in school?
I always liked history. I always enjoyed history. I was horrible at science. I was mediocre in math. English, I was, I was okay. Thank goodness for spell check, because I never was very good spell. If we didn't have, if there was some kind of a spelling thing when I wrote this book, it really would have been ugly. But yeah, so those are basically what I liked in high school.
I'm with you on that spell check, boy. And sometimes when I hit spell check, sometimes it's incorrect because the English language, two words mean the same thing. And
yeah. You still have to edit a little bit, but believe me, if I didn't have it, I'd come off as not very smart.
Tell us about your parents' influence they had on you.
They're still alive. God bless them. I just saw them. I spent Mother's Day after the Padres game Friday night. They live in Irvine, California, and my brother's down there. So we had a nice dinner and everything. My dad's 91, my mom's 88, and they're doing well. They were, they've always been, with my brother and I mean, they just have always been, had our back, encouraged us to. I think they thought I was maybe insane when I said I wanted to be an umpire. And they weren't quite, and then I, explained umpire school and the whole process, and they thought, well, okay, and then the first game that both my parents saw together in the Northwest League, my first year, I ejected the manager for Medford, the Medford, Oregon team, in the first inning on a play at the plate. And, my mom, after the game, she goes, I don't know why you do this. These people in your face all the time. I think my dad, the first three games that he ever witnessed me working in the Northwest League, I had ejections in all three. Now, it wasn't like I had ejections in every game, but he kind of thought I did. And so, they were always very, behind us and whatever my brother and I wanted to pursue, and luckily this thing worked out.
Awesome. Dale, what about as an umpire, on the field and off the field, same person, or I'll give you an example. I'm a little different on Zoom or radio or something like this, than I am in person.
Right.
How about you?
Well, I don't talk like this all the time when I'm talking to people in person. But I'm pretty much the same. I'm a pretty go with the flow, happy-go-lucky guy, which is, strange when you see some of the clips of the arguments and things I've had. I don't look like I'm, go with the flow kind of guy in some of those. But my personality, I think, comes out. My true personality comes out both on camera and off.
Favorite city to umpire?
Boy, we had a lot of them. I mean, Chicago probably would be number one, but man, there's some good cities that we go to, Boston and Minneapolis, Seattle, San Diego, Denver. I like all those cities.
The same thing. I know it's tough to decide number one, but how about a favorite player that, was kind of always professional no matter the situation? I mean, I know there's many of them, but
Ken Griffey Jr. He obviously Hall of Famer and outstanding player, but he had a great disposition. He almost, it seemed like he was always smiling. And if he, you called pitches on him that he didn't necessarily like, he didn't. He was very professional the way he approached you or the way he talked to you, and he's a pretty good role model for the kids. I mean, I think all around this is a pretty good guy.
How about lastly, a country you want to go to you've never been to before, you really want to see?
Well, I've never been to Italy. I've never been to Italy, and I've never been to Germany. Those are the two. I've been to Europe, some other places, but those would be the two. Italy. In fact, Mike and I our next big trip. It's not planned yet. I don't know when we're going, but Italy is the number one.
Well, you hit me because I am Italian. My first language Italian. I was raised in Italy by my grandparents from 3 to 6 years old. Came over, learned the language, learned English. Been there and I've been very fortunate. They've been there probably 40 times. I take teams there. We'll have to get you there because we'll have to do some umpire clinics in Italy.
Absolutely.
I will
call me. I'll give you my number.
And we've done many there, so that's why I bring that up. And Germany too. We do a lot of different clinics around the world with coaches, but we also like to bring umpires because of teaching coaches the umpire relationship, right? I mean, you teach coaches all the different skills and how to work with players, but what about how to communicate with umpires, especially at the grassroots level?
Well, and plus you need umpires to play the game, I know there's a huge shortage in the United States for not only baseball umpires, but sports officials in every sport. Yeah, the outreach in these other countries. I know Major League Baseball has had outreach. Also, they have the World Baseball Classic that's every 3 years or something that involves a lot of countries around the world. So I'm certainly not saying the umpires are more important than the players, but if you don't have umpires, you really don't have a game. So you need to make sure that you have both that are learning the game and learning how to do it all. I think it's great that you have done clinics and stuff, or coaching clinics or baseball clinics in Italy and Germany and wherever, because to expand the game, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. And, one thing in my coaching career, what really helped me, I got to tell you, is I went to Make Your Own Baseball School. I started as a student, and there was an umpire school there. It started by a guy by the name of Carl Luton. We're going back 35, 40 years.
Right.
And I got a chance to umpire 100 games starting at 15 years old every summer for about 8 summers, which was,
right.
That made me a much, much better coach, because you also had to study the rules.
Sure.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But I noticed that you started at 15, right?
Yeah.
Umpiring?
Yeah. I was not very talented. So my playing career was such as it was, going into high school was over. But I was really, like I said earlier, I was a big baseball fan. And at 15, if you don't have the talent to play on the JV or varsity team in high school, and you want to stay involved in the game, what exactly can you do? And a friend of mine had umpired the summer before, and he said, "Hey, you should umpire. You make some money on the side, and it's kind of fun." So I started doing it when I was 15, and I fell in love with it. And in fact, I also added football and basketball at the high school level, but I officiated year round for many years. And high school or football and basketball I did for 18 years each, which even overlapped with my baseball stuff. But did you enjoy umpiring?
I loved it. Matter of fact, I was a much better umpire as a player, and I loved it from the minute I started. I stayed with it, and then I went into coaching. I could have gone either way, and I wasn't sure, but coaching was something I really enjoyed.
Sure.
And on that, I wanted to ask you this: when did you have a good idea that you were pretty good?
Well, I always enjoyed it. And when I started at 15, when I was 18, 19, there was an umpire that I worked with in Eugene, in the Lane County area, that had gone to umpire school a couple of years earlier, and he didn't get a job out of it, but he just thoroughly enjoyed the whole 5 weeks. And he said, "Dale, you got a lot of potential, and I think you would really enjoy umpire school, even if you didn't get a job like himself." He said, because it's taking the umpire it's you learn stuff at umpire school that you never even thought of, about just footwork and how things. I mean, it's just amazing. I went into umpire school. I went when I was 21, and I thought I was a decent umpire. I thought I had known how to umpire a little bit. I got there and I felt like I don't know nothing. I mean, they from square one they teach you, and then I was lucky enough to be in the top 5 of that class, and I went to the advanced school, and the career was started. But when did I know I was pretty good? I felt like I was decent when I was like 18, 19 years old, and then I just progressed from there.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why, but maybe it was just because baseball was I was average. Man, right away when I was 15, 16, because we had college coach teams coming in, and at 16, I was umpiring behind home plate with colleges, and it was like, I was in control.
Right.
But again, here's the next part of all this. Here you are, you're going through the system. There's so many umpires, just like there are so many players. The odds of making it to the major leagues, I'm sure, is extremely hard.
Right.
Were there times where you sat there and said, "Why am I doing this? Maybe it's time to go on," but something kept you going?
Well, to be honest with you, I was lucky. I only spent 5 years in the minor leagues, which is not a long time.
Wow.
The average umpire, if he makes it to the big leagues, the average umpires in the minor leagues I don't know, anywhere from 8 to 10, 12 years sometimes. I just happened to be in the right place, the right time. When when there was a supervisor there, I had good games. I was on the chart or on the radar, so to speak, pretty quickly. I worked 2 winter balls in the Dominican Republic, which really helps you sharpen your skills because you are presented with things down there that you probably will never see in the big leagues, but you have to deal with them in real time right now. And that, just makes you a better umpire. So I was like, so to answer your question, no, there really wasn't, because when I went to umpire school, I had, I thought, well, the odds of making it into minor league baseball aren't high. But I would take that knowledge at umpire school, go back to Oregon, and start working at college and working my way up those ranks, knowing full well that there is a shot if maybe. Well, when I got there, it's a 5-week course. After a couple of weeks to maybe about halfway, I thought, I think I'm in the top 7 or 8 here of this class. The top 5 are going to the advanced school, so I that's what I was shooting for. I ended up 5th. I was 5th in the class. And so, once I got into professional baseball in the minor leagues, that's when I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to ride this wave as long as it takes me. And if I get thrown off, I get thrown off. If I decide to jump off, I'll jump off. But I would regret not riding this wave years down the road if I would say, why I should have pursued that, or I should have done that, because you never know what could happen. Well, so I never got discouraged. I mean, there were times that were discouraging, but I never got discouraged to where I thought, I don't want to do this anymore.
Absolutely. And you mentioned luck. We all got to have a little luck in life.
Oh, absolutely.
We also a little hard work and smart work and all that. What other skills were the individuals who are evaluating the umpires? What particular skills are they looking for that makes the difference when they're going to pick somebody?
Well, obviously, at umpire school, they from day one, you're taught the proper mechanics, both bases and plate, rotations and coverages and that kind of stuff. You have rules every morning. You're going over rules and stuff. But to answer your question, it's everything really. It's your rules knowledge and the tests and those types of things that are happening. It's on the field during the drills and in the cages, calling pitches. That you're competent at that as far as mechanically, and you're not moving your head, you're not blinking and on pitches and that kind of stuff. And then kind of a subjective thing, but they also are looking at you. The students are you live and breathe umpiring for 5 weeks. I mean, everybody's living on the same campus, and that kind of stuff. And you're always being observed. You're always being watched, basically, from the instructors. One of the things that's going to make the difference is just how you handle situations. Fast forwarding a little bit, when a guy, if he makes it all the way to AAA, now you're knocking on the door to the big leagues. But there's a lot of really good AAA umpires that never made it to the big leagues just because of a numbers game. There's just not a lot of big league umpires, and not a lot of openings, as you go through. But what separates the AAA guys, because they're all pretty good, judgment wise and mechanical wise, or they wouldn't be in AAA. But what will separate them is handling situations. How do you handle a situation that you made a mistake, or a situation that you didn't make a mistake, but they're piling on? If I make a mistake on or I have a big argument on something, and the ejection and all that, does it affect me the next pitch, the next batter, the next inning? Am I thinking about it, or is it done and over with, and I'll deal with it after the game, as far as maybe reevaluating what happened? But some guys can be really good ball strike, safe out umpires, but when it comes to situations, they have a tendency to throw a little gas on the fire, or the opposite. They get trampled and they don't respond like they should. So that's really usually what's going to be the difference once you get that. And in umpires, so it's the same thing in the setup drills and situations you have. They get a feel for how you are dealing with things. And that's how it helps them to make the evaluation at the end of how you rank in the class.
So that sounds like that's really one of the biggest parts is communication, how you're dealing with the managers, how you deal with confrontations, players.
Yeah, I mean, there's several ways to handle things. You can be bombastic. You can be the aggressor. You can be too meek and let them run all over you. You've got to find the best way of how you handle. I mean, trust me, there were times that I handled a situation and after the game I said, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I mean, that was not the best way to handle that. And of course you learn from it. But yeah, it's people sometimes say, well, it's a power trip. You're an umpire. It's not a power trip, but you have a lot of power, and you don't want to use that in just because I'm the umpire, by God, and that's what this is the way it's going to be. I mean, you have to deal with the situation and deal with the person you're dealing with, because every manager or coach are different, and you have to do it in a way that is fair and professional. And in a perfect world, your emotions aren't, and you don't get too fired up. You're the only people paid out there of all the people on the field not to get fired up. Right now, that's easier said than done sometimes, but all that plays into it. And there's a man, let's say Tony La Russa, let's say I might handle him completely different than a partner of mine on my crew. We still get the same results, maybe, right? But we do it in a different way. So there's not just one way to handle stuff. And that's, like I said earlier, sometimes I handled things and I thought, I probably shouldn't do that. Next to note to self. Or another thing is observation. You see how a partner handles something, good or bad, and you make notes and kind of figure that out. So there's a lot of that going on that has nothing to do with pitches and plays.
I remember when I was young, and again, instinctively I did it, and then I just saw it on a major league game. I think we saw it. You never know exactly the situation. I remember being behind home plate. There's times where you have a pretty good feeling you might have missed a ball or strike, sure, right? And the catcher doesn't turn, but he's pretty upset about it.
Sure.
And I remember saying, "Hey, I missed it." Life goes on. What else what's the rebuttal? If I did, just recently I saw an umpire go like this to a pitcher, like, "Hey, my fault." You in the past, you didn't see that much of that. At least you didn't hear of it. Maybe there was.
Well, first of all, it depends on the pitcher and the catcher that you're dealing with. I mean, there were some that I would, you may not have seen, what you saw the other day. That was Chad Fairchild, I believe, was the umpire. You may not have seen that, but if I have a good rapport with a pitcher and more specifically a catcher, I might tell him, hey, tell him he throws there again, he'll get it, or just let him know that, yeah, that's on me. And you may not have never see that because it's just a little verbal thing with the catcher, and he tells him in the dugout, and nobody knows or is any wiser. I mean, I've had times where I balled a pitch, and the catcher kind of he throws it back, and I said, again, if it's somebody that I felt I could talk with and talk to, I would say, well, after running that through my mind again, it's a pretty good pitch, and they go, okay, I mean, they appreciate that. Now, the problem or the danger you might have, you can't be doing that all the time, right? Because pretty soon your credibility is imploding. The other thing is there were certain catchers or pitchers that I would never admit that I missed, only because they would use that information immediately to not blow help my career, let's say. Sure. So you have to know who you're dealing with, and you have to do it sparingly in certain situations. That may happen, but there's other ways of dealing. I remember I had Earl Weaver when he came out of retirement. Remember, he came back for one more year. And that was my first year, I believe. And I was at the old Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, and his pitcher's on the mound. And I called a few balls. They didn't like, my strike zone very, very much. And Earl was kind of complaining a little bit. So he went out and talked to the pitcher. And when he was done, he came by, instead of going straight to the dugout, he comes over to me and he said, those pitches aren't high. And I said, I've got them up. He goes, well, they're not. I said, okay, so when you're hitting, those are strikes? He said, well, I didn't say that. Of course not. Of course not. I can understand what you're saying right here, Earl. You're saying that they're not high when you pitch, but when they're pitching, it is, and he said, well, that's not what I'm saying. I said, well, I know exactly what you're saying. So off you went. But I mean, sometimes you can you can deal with somebody and get your point across without being, in your face or aggressive doing it. It's the same thing happened my first year. The Yankees, the catcher, I can't think of his name offhand, but he pitch came in. I had it low and early in the game, and he throws it back and he says, "Dale, we got to have that." And I said, that pitch is down. And then a few hitters later, about the same spot, boom, ball. Man, Dale, that's a good pitch. And I said, "No, I've got the ball low." So about the third inning, boom, same like ball. He goes, "Dale, that's a strike." I said, "Okay, all right. I duly noted." I said, "So when you're up, I'll call that a strike." Yeah. And he said, I didn't say that. And I said, "Well, no. I mean, if that's a strike, if I'm missing that pitch and that's a strike, well, that's a strike for you too." He goes, "Well, don't call that on me." I said, "Okay." Well, so once again, you're kind of pointing out to them that, they kind of know it's low too. They're doing their job. They're trying to get a pitch for their pitcher, but you kind of throw it back on them and say, "Okay, all right, so I'll call that a," well, okay, maybe not.
Interesting, as a coach, I'd be thinking, I'm thinking, listen, guys, you're not getting that call. So why are you throwing it there? Get it up more, right? I mean, change whatever you're throwing.
Well, and Peter, you may not, I'm not talking about extremes, but you may not necessarily like an umpire strike zone, but if it's consistent and you know what it is, then, most players, pitchers and hitters can make that adjustment. And I think you would tell me immediately as a coach, from your coaching experience, it's the guys that are a little inconsistent, that is, that you can't get a beat on as far as where he's calling stuff. And that's what's really frustrating for everybody, because, and I've been there. I mean, sometimes that the ball looks like a beach ball and you're right on it. And other times it looks like a BB and you're not even sure, you're not picking it up well or whatever. But it's not necessarily that you like his strike zone. It's that where it's at, and you can then make those adjustments.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's all you could ask for is consistency. I mean, it's funny. I remember somebody telling me, an umpire, you have to, it's an impossible task because you start perfect and you have to end perfect. Well, that is never going to happen.
Right.
Now technology has changed the game, Dale, and I want to ask you about this because it's interesting. Not only has it changed the game, because now they know the strike zones of the umpires better, right? Because you got that hot and cold, your consistent pattern you're talking about. They can really see it, understand it. But the other part is you see it a lot. I know catchers are taught certain skills to make sure when they catch the ball to catch it in a certain manner and all that. Okay. But what I'm seeing is what I saw when we were younger. I'm seeing a guy catch a ball here and move the glove. Yeah, we're talking about 7-8 inches. The reason, now I've been told by experts in the game that the reason they're doing that, because they didn't want to, is because they actually are getting calls called strike that are balls, and they're seeing it technology wise. Does that make any sense?
Well, yes and no. I you might see, let me put it this way. You're talking about framing.
Yes.
And I think framing is overrated. Okay. I think it is true that if you have a good receiver, if you have a catcher that receives the ball well, I like to call it massages the ball. The best I ever had was early in my career was Bob Boone. When Bob Boone caught, he seemed to catch everything so smoothly and just kind of massaged. He made everything look good, right? Any of that stuff around the corners and stuff right around the knee. I mean, he just made everything look good. So a good receiver absolutely is going to help your pitcher, because you're taking that borderline, that really close pitch, and just massaging. Now, what you were saying, and I've seen it, a pitch is 1.5 inches or something outside, and boom, and they catch and then move. And sometimes a guy would do that, and I would say, don't, first of all, when I see that, that's telling me you had it outside, right? Okay, and now you're trying to fool me. Sometimes they take good pitches. You're going to get this pitch, and they still do that. And you go, don't do that. Don't just catch the ball. Just receive the ball. Okay. I think it's all now in lower levels. I believe you may have, with inexperienced umpires or younger umpires, that might influence them a little bit. But in the big leagues, and again, a good receiver, a good catcher that's a good receiver is going to be a positive for his pitcher. But a guy just, I do not buy the, well, he's framing the ball and it's fooling the umpire. Most of the times, the things you were talking about, it doesn't fool us at all. And sometimes, quite frankly, when they do it, they're on borderline pitches that if you just stick it, you're probably going to get it anyway. But by that movement, you're telling me I didn't have a strike, So,
Yeah. No,
I just think it's overrated.
I agree with you because, once you move it, it's kind of working against you if you
Right.
think about it. Now, as an umpire, here's what's interesting. When did you know it was a strike? Because did you wait in your mind, obviously, I know you don't make the call right away, but when did you know? As soon as the ball crosses, I would think you would know even before it even hits the glove in some ways, in your brain, in your mind. How does that work?
Well, yeah, you're picking the ball up out of the hand and you're following the ball all the way to the glove. Now, part of the reason, I'm making my decision when it's in the strike, over the plate area or not over the plate area. I mean, in the zone, the hit zone, so to speak. But I'm in my mind, but I'm not going to do anything. And, boom, the ball's caught. Half a second, and then I'm going to call something. Why is that? Sometimes they go, well, why is it taking so long? No, well, he's not really taking long. It's called timing. In any sport, as an official, but in talking about baseball, an umpire has to have timing. Anytime you call something too quickly, you have a real good chance of making a mistake. Let the play or the pitch finish. It gives you a chance to on a pitch. I've determined what I have in that strike area, but I'm not actually signaling or calling it until, half a second or so later, and, the ball is caught. There have been times that my timing, because of my timing being good, my initial thought of, oh, that's a ball. Oh, no, you know what? That was a good pitch. Boom. And I call it a strike. If I had called it if my timing had been too quick, I don't have that split second to kind of rerun that pitch through your mind. It's the same thing on the bases. You have to have time. How many times have you seen like a steal play or something, and the umpire's, jacking them out and the ball's rolling around? Your timing's way too quick.
Right.
Way too quick. Give the fielder a chance to screw up is what we always say. Give him the time to make a mistake. Don't be in a rush. It's nothing until you call it. So don't be in a rush to call it. Make sure the play is over, and then make your call. So when I do clinics, when I talk, at camps and stuff, I can't stress enough to umpires, timing. Take your time. You may feel like in your mind, my God, that was forever. That's eternity. It's not. Trust me. And you're going to alleviate, is that the right word? So many mistakes if you have that good timing. And one of probably the number one thing that I see when I see, especially younger umpires, as inexperience wise, that are working, is they call things way too fast, too fast, and you just have to settle down, let everything happen.
Another thing that's changed in the game is the catchers. The way we're teaching catchers, you see them go to one knee. They're even going like the Manny Sanguian stance at times. A lot of this today has to do with giving the umpire a better vision of the strike zone. Does that help? Is that something good?
Well, I worked behind Tony Pena, and Tony, a lot of times, he would jet that one leg out and just be way down. Yeah, it gives you a great shot, a great view. Sometimes you feel a little naked back because the guy's so low. You have to trust your equipment for sure. But that certainly is going to give you a nice view. That certainly doesn't mean that if they don't do that, sometimes you have. I work behind Carlton Fisk. He's a big guy, okay, but he got down pretty well for a big guy, I have to say. But as an umpire, you may have a hitter that's crowding the plate a little bit, a catcher that wants, they want to work him inside, and your window, your view is getting shrunk, and so there are things that we do to try to compensate for that, and it certainly makes it more difficult for us to do our job. That being said, we got to do our job. If you got a close pitch and those guys are doing it, you can't say, well, he crowded, I can't see it, I don't know. That's not really an answer. You still have to do what you have to do to see the pitch. But anytime you have a guy that gives you a nice big window, so to speak, it helps immensely for sure.
And speaking about vision, interesting, like hitters, they're always trying to pick up the ball early out of the pitcher's hand. They're doing some vision training. Is there something particular you did, to get better as an umpire, or is the strike zone, once you have the strike zone, that's your strike zone, or can you get better at calling balls?
Well, every pitch is, I mean, here's the thing. First of all, you just experience calling pitches is going to, help you be much more consistent and seeing the ball and that kind of stuff. But you have to consistently, mechanically make sure that you're doing the right thing. Late in the game, if it's been a long game or it's really hot, you're tired. Your legs a little tired. You're mentally, you might be just a little fatigued. I mean, because it's just things going on. But you have to do the basics every time. You want to make sure you're set and not coming down as the pitch is coming in. That's moving. You want to be set when the pitch is coming in. You want to be in what we call the slot, which is the area between the hitter and the catcher to see the pitch. If I'm constantly reminding myself if I'm going down, if I don't see that, if I can't see the outside edge of the plate, I'm probably too close to the catcher because his head's in my way, or I'm not high enough. My head's getting too low. These are just check boxes you check as you go through. When I was back there, and trust me, 30 plus years in the big leagues, you still have games that it's just not, for whatever reason, sure, you're not picking the ball up very well, or your timing seems a little quick or whatever. But when I would have those types of games, I talk about it like when you learn how to drive. They teach you how to drive. You're 10 and 2, and that's how you drive on it. Now, after you get experience, I'm just kind of cruising. I mean, but all of a sudden now you're on a 6-lane freeway going 100 miles an hour. I might be 10 and 2 again. Okay, so same thing with umpiring. If things, I'm seeing the ball well and I mean timing's good and stuff, fine. But now if I'm struggling, what do? I immediately go just through the checklist. Am I set for the pitch? My head is am I in the slot? And my head height, and my timing, everything that you have been taught from day one, basically, to get back to refocusing and hopefully picking up the ball. And you do that on the bases too. I mean, if I kick a steal play at third, instead of being down on myself, that's terrible. After the game, I'm going to watch it on video. Why did I miss this? Was I too close? Was I too far? What was my angle? Was I moving? All these little checklist things to hopefully, prevent, what? When I take that play, I am too, step and a half too far. I need to come over here, or, whatever it might be. Because a lot of times when you're doing it, you don't feel it. You think you're in good shape. You see it on video, you go, oh, you know what? I did overrun that, or I did, do something like that. So you're constantly trying to, self-evaluate yourself, and it doesn't necessarily happen when you miss a call. You may have got the call right, but you just weren't comfortable where you were. So I'll take a look at it and see, was there something I could have improved on when I took that play.
It's interesting, no different than a player, right? They go back to the fundamentals, 1, 2, 3,
right.
Go back to the basics, try not to do too much. The other part of all this is, the hitters have, certain ballparks where they pick up the ball better. And some parks,
absolutely.
Is that an umpire too? No.
Let me tell you a little story. 1997 divisional series. I had the Mariners at the Orioles. Game 4. I was behind the plate, and it was about, I think it was a 3:00 start. It's in early October. Randy Johnson is pitching for the Mariners. There's a silver building in downtown Baltimore, beyond center field, that normally doesn't come into play. But when you're 6'11" and you're a left-hander, the ball was coming out of this silver building at this 3:00 in the afternoon start, where the angle of the sun in October. I mean, I was like, the catcher too is go, oh man, I can't, the ball was coming out of this sun-drenched silver building. And for the first few innings, it was just tough to see, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, you can't move the building and you can't move the mound. So you have to, you have to just kind of, and that's when you really want to have slow timing. You want to make sure you saw what you thought you saw and run that through your head before you tell everybody what you got. But there's times like that. sometimes when we have replay now, but there were times out in the outfield, was it, what did the was it interference? Did the fan touch it? If he did touch it, would have gone out anyway, so it's a home run? Or did it not touch it? Or we have a line here, if it's above that line, well, that's a home run, but I'm not sure. And the thing is, you're going out as a covering umpire. You may be 200 feet away or so. You see it one time in real time. There may be a bunch of people in white shirts out there. It might be the sun is glanced off of a advertising sign out there or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of factors that play into that split second, and that when you have to see something. And again, not as an excuse. That's just reality. Sometimes it's very tough to see or pick up the ball. And then, of course, you have places like the Metrodome, which is no longer around, or Tampa, Tampa I call arena baseball, because that's what it seems like. And this ring and that ring and whatever. But I many times at the Metrodome, especially the visiting team, they would lose an easy pop up or fly ball because they can't see. They're not used to looking, with that light background up in the roof and stuff. And as umpires, I always used to tell the crew that a lot of times, maybe the covering umpires, the third base umpire on this particular play, I would tell the guys, everybody else, keep your eyes on them, because a lot of times from across the way, you have a better angle of seeing what if it hit a ring or if it hit a speaker or whatever. Those could be really tough, but it's when you watch it on TV, it's like, well, it's obvious it hit it hit that, or it's obvious it hit
right.
that. Well, yeah, I'm sure it is from your couch, but it's sometimes it's not here,
Absolutely. Yeah. The sun's not in your eyes either.
Right. You don't have Randy Johnson coming out of a silver building. Okay.
Right. And that I was wondering about that. There's really nothing in those situations, nothing you can do to adjust in a different manner or set up differently. Not really.
And so that then it just comes down to, again, I can keep saying this, but taking your time. Do not get quick. Same thing when I first started working a knuckleball guy, Charlie Huff. I mean, you just don't really see that in the minor leagues, right? So your first exposure really is in the big leagues, and you had a few guys, but at first, I mean, the thing about a knuckleball is the hitter can't hit it and the catcher can't catch it, but by God, don't miss it if you're the umpire. So, and you can kind of throw out all the things that a normal pitcher, that you use to call balls and strikes, because knuckleballs aren't going to look pretty, and they're still strikes. They've gone through the strike zone, but they're. And finally a veteran guy told me, he said with the knuckleball, don't think strikes, because most people don't know anyway. They can't tell, so if you're not sure, don't get so fine back there that you're balling pitches and consistently, because it's just doesn't look pretty. They're not going to look pretty. So you need to think strikes and call them as such. And a lot of times the hitters, they're like, I don't know. I mean, because they're so such a bizarre pitch.
Nowadays I would think major league fastballs increase 4 or 5 miles an hour. You got guys coming in, in relief, 4 or 5 innings, throw 98 to 100. But it's interesting. Not only do you have to, worry about the fastball, which at least goes fairly straight. It's got movement, obviously, but now you got a curveball, 12-6, or a slider. What's the toughest pitch, if there is one, to call? Is it the 12-6? They don't throw that very often down, the curveball.
Yeah, I mean, probably, I would say probably the slider that's down and away, that move. I mean, these guys are unbelievable how they, the ball will, right when it needs to move, it moves, right when it's getting to that plate area, and then it does something goofy. But as an umpire, you're not thinking pitches. You're not thinking, well, he'll throw a fastball now, or he'll throw that. I'm not trying to hit the pitch. I'm trying to call the pitch. And so if I'm guessing pitches like a hitter will, I might think, oh, he'll throw a fastball here, and then he throws something, and I'm not even ready for it because I thought it was going to be a fastball, just like a hitter, right? So, people say, well, were you thinking that? No, not at all. All I'm doing is picking up the ball, whatever he throws, and trying to judge if it's in the zone or not. the moment you start guessing pitches, you're going to be guessing balls and strikes. So we think totally differently that way.
You know what? That's interesting because the other part, and there's so much. That's why I love talking about this because I have so much respect for umpires because it's such a difficult job. It's incredible what they do at the major league level. And here, here's another one that I always thought, how did they make this call? And maybe ask you, should we be changing the system a little bit? Check swings. I mean, you're talking about seeing a curveball, slider, fastball at 100, and understanding did he, swing.
Right.
Is that fair for the home plate umpire?
Well, yes and no. First of all, check swings are a bitch. I mean, I'm often asked, what's the toughest call? Well, check swings are right up there because first of all, the rule is very vague, which is actually kind of good because if it wasn't, let me put it this way. You could have a guy that has the bat moves quite a bit, but he didn't check. He checked his swing, but even though there's a lot of movement on the bat, because maybe he came here, but he really didn't offer the pitch. He stopped, but the bat moves a little bit. Then you could have a bat that barely moves at all, but he definitely had made an attempt. So there's there's not one set criteria that you can't say, well, he went, the barrel went past this, or the old wives' tale that he his wrist, he broke his wrist or whatever.
Right.
You as an umpire on the bases, when you're on first or third and they're going to come to you, you're just, it's not one specific thing that you're looking at. You're looking at the entire thing and just making a judgment on it. And I know that's a vague answer, but a check swing really is how you get good at calling check swings is just seeing them, just experience and seeing them. Now, there's other factors involved. The dark, like black bats, darker bats, they're tougher to pick up. When they move the bat. The other thing that's deceiving from the television aspect, some parks will have a camera on the home plate end of a dugout. Mm-hmm. Some will be on the outfield end of a dugout. Yeah. Big difference in that angle from those two cameras, and neither of those cameras is the angle that's right on the line, right?
And that's not fair to the umpire when that's on television.
Well, exactly, because a viewer only sees what the camera shows them. I mean, they don't, right. and once in a while you get a pretty good angle from what would be the same angle the umpire has on certain things. But a lot of times you don't have the same angle. Just recently there was a play in Kansas City where Bobby Witt Jr. was picked off, and then he slid hard into fast and hard into third with a fielder right behind him trying to tag him. And Witt came off the bag. The fielder also made contact with him. It looked like maybe he pushed him off the bag. Mm-hmm. Now, Manny Gonzalez was the third base umpire. He was behind third base, and from that angle, from the angle that he had, it definitely looked like it was an overslide, that he was out. Sure. Now you look at the angle from the home plate. Yeah, and the angle that Matheny saw as the Royals manager. You look at his angle, it looks like it definitely was pushed off. I mean, that's the same play, but it looks very different from each side. Now, the viewer has the luxury of seeing all the angles, right, and making a judgment. And if Manny saw it from the angle he was at, and it's not like he was out of position. I mean, that's where he was. It was just a goofy play and a very, quite frankly, could have gone either way. If you see that play from Matheny's angle, I definitely got the guy pushing him off. You see it from Gonzalez's angle, I got him over sliding. So, wow. That's why we make the big bucks, right? But the angles play such a big role in how you see the play. And we were talking about check swings, that those cameras on either end of the dugout make a big difference. But remember, they're not even close to the angle that the umpire sees it. So wow. It's very subjective.
And now you got New York, they got all these cameras. They got to make a decision as quick as possible, with, whatever the call was made. That can't be easy for the umpires in New York.
Are you talking about the replay?
Yeah, the replay, because like you said, different angles.
Yeah, well, at least when I sat in replay, at least you got all the feeds. And so you were able to see all the feeds, unlike the umpire who has his one feed, which is where he's at. But again, I was in replay where you look this feed, man, he looks like the tag was there. This feed, I think he might have beat it. I mean, when replay was first coming into to baseball, that that we need replay. That'll solve all of our problems if we have replay. No, it doesn't. I mean, there's still plays, and you see them practically every day that are just too. You just can't 100% tell. Now fans are going to see stuff with their heart and not their head. Sure. Okay. So they're going to say, well, it's obviously safe. Well, yeah, it's not really, but what is obvious to you? Because I don't think that's obvious. He may be safe, but that's not obvious, so you have that, but yeah, you do have even more than the viewer at home when you're in replay. Okay. If you're watching the White Sox telecast, right, and they're playing the Rangers, we get both telecasts, camera angles from both, where the White Sox people only see the White Sox replays, right? So sometimes you'll be, as a viewer, that they overturn. You go, how did they overturn it? There was nothing there. Well, there's nothing there on the broadcast you saw, or the cameras that you saw, but the cameras of this other broadcast actually had a camera. Now they're supposed to clip that and send it to the other broadcast, and also the stadium, to let people know this is the angle that the decision was made on. So as transparency, because if they didn't do that, and as like my example, a White Sox fan going, there was no angle that they should have done that, and they think it's a conspiracy, when in actuality there was an angle, you just didn't see it.
Very interesting. That's why I love these talks. On the check swing, I got to ask you this one. Is there a flat out rule? I know it's not an easy call. That's one, the actual rule of the check swing. What is it? And two, is it better for the base umpires to call it no matter what?
Well, first of all, the rules, I don't have it in front of me, but it's written pretty open. It's in the judgment that he made an attempt at the ball. It doesn't say if the barrel of the bat goes beyond the front point of the plate, or if that's not in there.
I got it.
As far as the plate man calling it, a lot of times you'll call a strike. Yeah, he swung, and no, you have to ask. But as a plate guy, you're trying to get your plays. Okay. You're not wanting to have, your partner's making all the calls for you. But when you have a close check swing, probably and you have a ball, obviously you're not calling a strike on the pitch. The best case scenario is probably to give it to your partner, because they're going to want that anyway. Right. Mm-hmm. But there were times when I was working the plate that I, check swing. I mean, I had him swinging, and then I find out that he probably really didn't, but I was sure in my mind that he had, and other times I didn't have him swing, and then point down my partner, yeah, he swung, hello. Listen, check swings are a bitch, like I said, and if you want a rule that every check swing you just have to go to your partner, well, make that rule. But right now, it's the plate umpire's call, unless and if he calls a ball and no swing, then by rule they can ask, and he has to ask. I guess in a way it would be easier if they had changed the rule and just said every check swing has to be asked. But then as the base umpires, you're going, okay, great, I got it all in me now. Sometimes there's no solution. Okay. Sure. Sometimes you can have the base guys call it every time. It's not going to solve the ones that could have gone either way. I mean, it's sometimes there's no solution to what the quote unquote problem is.
One thing I want to do is I definitely want to get to the book right now. But one more thing before you do, you mentioned earlier, because we see it on television a lot, not television, but in the media, we're losing umpires, young umpires, especially we're trying to get more kids to umpire, right? Because that way, if they love it, they can continue, maybe make a career out of it. But we need young umpires, but you're seeing parents and all these people always pressuring these kids and getting on them. It's getting really nasty at times. So we don't have a lot of umpires, we're losing umpires. Right. And there's some games, you can't even play games now because there's no umpires.
Right.
What's your advice there? What do we need to do? I know it's a big project, but what needs to be done when it comes to communication?
Well, a couple things. One thing is not in all leagues, or but the game fees haven't changed much. We need to boost those up a little bit. Okay. When, a young kid, trying out umpire, and he's 18, 19, my age, 15, 16 or whatever. But he figures out that, I kind of like this. It's kind of fun, but, I'm not making a whole hell of a lot of money, and that's okay. But I'm getting so much grief, from coaches and fans and stuff, that I could still do something else, make more money, and not get the grief. So I think game fees need to rise a little bit. They've kind of been stagnant, and it is starting to happen. But there is an issue with some of the stuff that's just the screaming and yelling and abuse, frankly. I mean, I remember I've been asked for years, many times, are you ever, in the big leagues, were you ever concerned about, your safety or security? I said, in the big leagues, no. When I was 16 and 17 and 18 and working, who knows what, there was no security. And there were times I worked the plate. I'm going back to my parents' car to take off my chest protector and shin guard and stuff, and I'm followed by angry parents or coaches or something, that they're going to key the car, they're going to slash my tires, and that kind. You had zero security. And trust me, you may like umpiring a lot, but if you get that a few times a week, it's like, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. People need to realize, again, part of the problem, the younger kids who are learning the game are not going to have D1 college umpires working the game. Okay. Those are going to be young umpires working the game. They're learning to umpire. So cut them some slack, for crying out loud. Okay. Little Johnny can barely catch a fly ball or hit a cutoff man, but by God, if this guy misses a pitch, we're going to crucify him, and it's like, I just think things, and our society has changed with social media and everything. And
Sure.
People are much, verbal, entitled, whatever, but just let's calm down. Why? And let me add, by the way, not only is it discouraging some umpires, young umpires especially, that are just starting out, they work a year, maybe 2 years, and they say, I just can't do this anymore, because it can be discouraging and very embarrassing for a lot of the players when they're out there, and and you have some, maybe it's one of your parents, or maybe it's just other parents of kids on the team that are just screaming and making just a big show. That can be a little embarrassing. I'm much younger when I was working, but I remember hearing players say, I just wish you would shut up, because it's just embarrassing. They're trying to learn the game and play the game. Yes, you want your team to do well. Yes, you want your kid to do well, but it's gotten to the point a lot of times, and then you see videos of people, fights breaking out in the stands. I mean, come on, people. Come on, is this for the kids or is this for you guys? I mean, come on, let's just try to get back to what this all is all about. It's a game. It's supposed to be a fun game, and if players and umpires, and as far as that goes, coaches have fun doing it and have a positive time, during the season, they'll want to do it again and do it again and do it again. But if it's constantly in turmoil and just all this, angry, stuff going around, it's not encouraging.
Yeah, and I got to believe, parents need the umpire and see how tough it is. They get,
Yes.
They can get behind and make those calls. That's why a lot of times in practices, I have kids umpire, because I want them to get the feeling, understanding what it's all about. We tell kids, we're not going to yell at you when you make mistakes, because we're going to work on it. But yet we're yelling at umpires. What's the difference? We all make mistakes. We shouldn't be yelling at anybody, which is crazy. Hopefully things will change, because like I said, we need young umpires.
Right. We need to keep those guys, so they want to come back. And like I did, I started at 15, and I've talked to several, 18, 19, 20-year-olds that say, yeah, I really do like doing this, but after 2 or 3 years, I just, I just can't take it anymore.
I can't blame them. Who wants to yell constantly, right? I mean, when they're trying to do their best, and then, even though they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. You have an umpire supervisor at the younger levels, right? When they make mistakes, they learn from them. They talk about it, and you got to give kids, some, like you said, some slack here. Hey, on top of all this, umpiring is so tough. You've done it at the major league level all these years. At the same time, in 2014, you came out as the first openly gay umpire, not only in baseball, but if I read it correctly, in 5 sports.
The five major sports. Yeah.
Yeah, the pressure of that had to be a lot more than umpiring a major league game.
Well, I was the first active sports official in male sports official in the Big Five sports to come out. But you have to understand, by the time that I did that publicly, Major League Baseball, the people I worked for, people that signed my checks, they had already known this, and the umpires that I was on the field with, the staff, they also knew this. So this wasn't news to them per se. Now they didn't know that my whole career. I mean, this
Right.
I hit it for years, and I actively hit it for years, not only in the minor leagues, but my first 15 years in the big leagues. But it was news to fans and teams and the media, and it was a deal that my husband Michael, we met after my first year in the American League. So we met in the fall of 1986, and we've been together ever since. Now we weren't able to get married, and we legally got married in 2013. But one of the reasons I decided to come out publicly is because of that. The year before we got married, but we've been together for so long, and I was thinking of all the advocates, all the people that tried in the gay community that was pushing marriage equality, that were actively trying to change the laws, trying to change the attitudes, frankly, of a lot of people, or at least try to understand our viewpoints, and all the work they've done, and blood, sweat, and tears, or whatever. And here I am, have been very successful, and I just felt hypocritical that I was still doing this, because when I was home, I mean, so many people knew, but it wasn't knowledge to the bigger arena that I'm in, and so I just thought, it's just time. I also, though, as you get older, and I was established, let's be honest, I wasn't my rookie year. It wasn't my first 5 years or something. Right. I was an established umpire. I had World Series and crew chiefs. And obviously, Major League Baseball knew my situation. I was continuing to get postseason assignments. Obviously, it was not an issue for them. But I also had gotten to the point, Peter, that, frankly, if you got a problem with this, it's really your problem. It's not my problem. I know who I am. I'm happy who I am. I'm happy with my life. And I'm sorry that this is something that's going to, rattle your cage a little bit, but that's something that you need to work with, because it's not a problem for me. So I just felt hypocritical. I just felt that this, and I wasn't sure what the reaction would be, frankly. And, I came out in December, so it wasn't during the season. We were months away from a game.
What was the reaction?
Well, the reaction in December was extreme. Well, total was extremely positive. I received over 200 emails from around the world, from every walk of life, firemen, policemen, other sports officials in a bunch of different sports. Some were saying, congratulations, your story has really given me the courage to come out of the closet, or I'm not quite there yet, but I'm another step closer because I've heard your story. One of the reactions that I constantly talk about, because I think it just personifies why I did this, or why it was the right thing to do. I got a email from a senior in high school in the LA area who was an umpire. His goal was to be a major league umpire, and he was also gay, but he wasn't out. And he wrote me and he said, because of you, now I know I may not make it to the big leagues because I don't have the talent, but it's not because of who I am.
Yes.
And that's gold. I mean, that's gold. That's why you do this. I mean, not that I was second guessing me doing this, but when I read that, I was like, my God, this, and that's, I heard from people that took the time to message me. How many people didn't message me? But
that's what I was going to say.
But this story somehow affected them in a positive way. Yeah. And it just, that's one of the reasons, quite frankly, because I wasn't planning on writing a book, but when I was talking to Rob Nyer, who helped me write this book, and he was saying, I told him, I said, Robbie, a lot of umpires have written books when they've retired, and they're fun stories and this and that, but it's been done. I just didn't, want to do that. And he said, well, that's true. A lot of guys have, and that's true, and you've got the stories. I mean, 30 plus years, 30, you've got the stories, but you have a story that nobody else has. And it's one that I think needs to be out there. I think it's something that needs to be. And the more I thought about it, he's right. I mean, I was successful. Things worked out for me, but it would have been nice when I was young and there was a mentor or somebody I looked up to that was a sports official of some kind or an umpire that I mean, of course, it was a totally different time. I get it, but that would have been nice. And all the positive stuff that I heard after becoming out publicly, I thought, you know what, maybe this story does need to be out there. And so that's the motivation for writing the book. And it hasn't been out long, but so far the feedback has been very, very positive.
Yeah, I think it was May 1st, right, on Amazon?
The publishing date was May 1st, but books were available starting in late March, actually, people that pre-ordered and that kind of stuff. So
Bob Costas gave you a great credit.
Yeah.
I was reading.
Yeah, I had some editorial reviews is what they call them, but David Cohn, Bob Costas, Harold Reynolds, I reached out to them, sent them the manuscript, Costas was great. I mean, I've met Bob a few times. I know Bob, but it's not like, hey, Bob, what's up? I just, call him up but he was outstanding. I've known Harold a long time. He's from Oregon. We're both Duck fans. So we've had that in common. David Cohn was actually, now he was my starting pitcher. The first World Series game I worked, he was the starting pitcher, the first league championship series that I worked, I believe. I have to check that one, but I mean, I've had David Cohn a lot, when I was working, and a great guy to work because he was always around the plate. he might get hit, but he's throwing strikes, and you love that. But Rob Nyer, of course, he's broadcasting for the Yankees, and Rob Nyer said, I've done some stories on David, so why don't I hit him up and see if and he was very gracious. So they said some really nice things, and the exposure of this book, again, the people that contact me, the people that take the time to contact me, it's been great. It's like the iceberg. So many more will not contact me, and that's fine. But hopefully this story will resonate, will help. And also, people that aren't gay, but maybe they have a better understanding. I'm not the stereotype. I'm not the, well, he can't be gay. He's an umpire, it's like, just to maybe get a little bit better understanding in this society, that quite frankly, we're everywhere. We're in all walks of life, and we're humans. We pay taxes and we go to the grocery store. I mean, we're not some typical stereotype, predator or something like that. So it's hopefully it'll change some minds, or at least open up some minds as to what life's all about, really.
Well, I'm sure it has, and I'll tell you what, I think you did a great thing. And I wanted to ask in the book, I want to give the book, to talk too much about it as far as what's in it. I want people to read it, but something that we didn't talk about, that's interesting in the book. I know there's a lot of good things you have in there, but what's something that, kind of tells a little bit about you, but also about maybe umpiring?
Well, there's some stories in there about the minor leagues and about how, when I started out, 1981 was my first year in professional baseball. I was in the Northwest League, which starts, around June 15th or something. Mm-hmm. My first game was literally like 2 weeks after the first reported mysterious cancer was affecting these young men in San Francisco and New York, and they didn't know what it was. Well, it was the AIDS epidemic. It was the start of HIV. And, a lot of people don't remember or weren't around. People were horrified in the 80s. They didn't know how it was spread. They weren't sure how, if you touched a doorknob, if you, whatever, Ryan White, a kid that was a hemophiliac that had a bad blood transfusion that was infected, and he was ostracized from school, and he can't, there was a lot of fear and a lot of unknown, and I'm starting my professional baseball career. So, it was one thing. Obviously I didn't want baseball to know I was gay, because it would affect, I thought I'd probably, be fired, or I wouldn't advance. Let's put it that way.
In those days, it could have been, right?
Right. Now I was also thinking, my God, even if they knew I was gay, there would be umpires who would not want to work with me. There would be they wouldn't want to be anywhere near me, because they're afraid.
Right.
And like we talked earlier, I mean, you're in the you're in the minor leagues, you share a hotel room, you're driving, you have one car, you're driving everywhere, you're in the same locker room, you're on the field. I mean, you're together a lot, especially in the lower minor leagues. So I had that whole thing over my head as I was trying to start off this new profession, and see, try to, work my way through the minor leagues. So I was actively doing what I could to deceive, and there's a story in the book that's kind of humorous. So when my spring training, I just been like 2 years in the big leagues, and Mike's sister, Mary, who lived in Phoenix, and I was in spring training in Phoenix. She was single, and she was a flight attendant for America West Airlines. I said, Mike, do you think your sister would, she'd be into being my beard one night, and I'll just take her to the, where all the umpires hang out, and introduce her, and I'd throw everybody off scent, if they, and so she said, I think so. I asked her, she thought it was hilarious. So yeah, I write about it in the book. It's pretty funny, but some of the guys that I introduced her, and she's a good-looking woman, right? And I remember one of the guys that I had gone to umpire school with, and he wasn't in the big league; he was a AAA umpire at the time. But he said, kind of off to the side, so Scotty, who is this again? I said, well, this is my roommate's sister. And he goes, and how well do you know her? And I said, well, I know her very well, Billy, very well. And he goes, okay. You can just see the wheels turning, like, really? That's kind of surprising. But anyway, I actively was trying to throw off the scent or whatever.
Sure.
That being said, I knew who I was, and I certainly, when I was home in Portland, I had gay friends and went to bars. So I wasn't a closeted man, but I was a closeted man in baseball.
Yeah.
And for many reasons. But the book, it shares those stories. It shares a lot of good baseball stories, for sure. But it also talks about, me actively trying to hide who I was.
Sure.
So,
and that's, what I like about that too, is like you said, a lot of people gives them more courage to come out, but not just gay people, but, we all have something that we're hiding. I mean,
Well,
look, I don't care who you are, something that you just don't want people to know for
Right.
whatever reason. You might be embarrassed about it, right?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
so
I mean, one of
hopefully-
the, let me tell you a couple of the messages I got when I came out. One was from a parent in Toronto, a gentleman who said, I'm so, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. And I'm hoping that it's stories like this, that as I raise my two little girls, that, that stories like this won't even be a story someday, that they'll be able to live in a world where we won't have this this prejudice and hatred toward homosexuals. But I mean, here's a guy that he took the time to message me, just say thank you, and I'm hoping this, as I raise my girls. One of my favorites was I got a message from it. It said it was this woman. She said, I'm a longtime season ticket holder of New York Yankees, and I just want to say congratulations to you and Mike. I hope you have a happy life. I'm so proud of you. Just beautiful first paragraph. In the second paragraph, it says, however, as a longtime Yankee season ticket holder, for the life of me, I don't know how you could have made some of those calls against the Yankees. And I loved that because here's someone that said, I am so proud of you, and I'm congratulations. I'm so glad you did this. Oh, and by the way,
yeah, she's more worried about the calls.
Yeah. So, which is the way it should be. I'm an umpire. I understand
Absolutely.
that, so, the last one I'll tell you is just a funny one. Some guy, it was, not knowing what the reaction was going to be in that 2015 season, as I, after I'd come out a few months earlier, I was in Atlanta working third base, and it was between innings. I'm just kind of standing there, and in the article that I came out, it mentions that I'm a big Oregon Duck fan. I grew up in Eugene and have season tickets to Ducks and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there, and there's a lull, and all of a sudden I hear somebody yell kind of behind me. I cannot believe that Dale Scott came out as a Duck fan. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there waiting for the punchline. He goes, but with all those uniform changes, it makes a lot of sense. So I thought that's classic. That's funny. You know, that's some funny stuff. But it was a very positive experience. But I also hope that for other gay people, maybe it gives them courage or the strength to maybe do things in their lives. And I hope for people that aren't gay, it just hopefully it shows that we're everywhere. You can't stereotype, you can't assume. You know, I'm like everybody else, quite frankly, and you know, and just to maybe loosen up a little bit about that. And society's doing. You know, we've taken a lot of steps. There's been a few backward steps, but we're getting there.
Yeah, but it's getting better, which is good to see. And well, Dale, listen, man, congratulations on the book. And I gotta, you know, we're gonna put all our stuff information on the show notes. We're gonna try to get it out as much. I'm sure it's gonna sell really well.
Well, I hope so. Umpiredalescott.com is my website. That'll have a lot of information on it. My schedule. I've got a lot of book promotion stuff going around in different parts of the country. If you want to get your book signed, you know, that kind of stuff, there's that information. So
that's what I wanted to finish with, because I wanted to ask you, what's Dale Scott doing now? He's got the book, he's doing book signings. What else are you doing? I'm sure you're probably more busy than you were when you were a major league
just
umpire.
About. Here's my June schedule, if you can see that. I mean, I did the Pride Night in San Diego, threw out the first pitch for their Pride Night. I have 7 more Pride Nights. I'm not throwing out the first pitch for all of them, but I have 7 more Pride Nights, all in June, all around the country. Coming up this Saturday, I'm going to be in Boston, but on May 17th, I'm going to be at the Baseball Hall of Fame doing a live stream event interview. Very excited about that. I've never been to Cooperstown. I've never been to the hall, obviously. They're going to give me a little private tour beforehand, which I'm excited about. So that's happening. But again, umpiredalescott.com. You can, you know, catch some of this stuff. And I'm very appreciative to be on here. And thank you for the invite to be able to help tell my story.
Dale, thank you. And, you know, the other part of this also was, you know, we're talking about umpires make great speakers when it comes to banquets, you know, because of the stories that you guys have. I think that I think if folks are interested in that, we'll put everything on to contact you. So that way, if there's in reaching out to you about a particular project, I'll stay in touch as far as internationally. Maybe we'll do something together.
Sure.
I think that'd be great. The other thing I wanted to ask before we close, where does the first pitch, throwing out the first pitch the first time, where's that rate when it comes to pressure? Was there pressure throwing that pitch?
Okay. Well, first of all, I said, you want me to throw that for you? You know, I'm an umpire, right? Yeah. And then I said, you
got a little closer.
Well, yeah. Hey, listen, I know my limitations. Okay.
I would have done the same thing.
And I told, you know, the first time I did it was with the Dodgers in 2018. And I said, you realize I just usually handed it to the catcher and they threw it out. So maybe we can work something out. But I, you know, the Dodgers gave me a jersey with my name and my number at number 5. And it was so weird because putting that on was just so not what an umpire does. You never wear, you know, like your favoritism or something. I felt like I was like doing something like, you know, a sin or something. but then I went to Baltimore that same year, a few weeks later, and I'm putting on the jersey they gave me, and they go, "Oh, by the way, you know, the last guy to wear this was Brooks Robinson." I'm like, what? Talking about pressure. Now I'm going to go out with number 5, which hasn't been worn since Brooks Robinson with the Orioles.
Wow.
And I'm going to throw, you know, and of course I had a horrible throw. So,
hey, you know what? Like you said, at least you were an umpire. You're not a player, so people kind of expected a so-so throw.
Right. Well, of course, a so-so throw and then me calling it a strike. That's what they think.
Right. Dale, awesome, man. Listen, I got to thank you. It's really been a pleasure first meeting you and having you on the show.
Sure.
I wish you the best with the book and in anything you're doing in life, man. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, folks. Dale Scott. Thank you. Special thanks to Dale. Special thanks to Brian Crocker, producer with the Lineup Media Group. And special thank you, ESPN Honolulu, along with all the folks in the U.S. and around the world. Thank you. Remember, stay safe. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next show.